Hey, what's good, guys? Clutch and Tim here, back in another video. And for today's video, we're going to be talking about the Houston Texans. And there's been some recent developments in the free agent market. Some big name releases, some surprising cuts, some guys that you wouldn't really expect to be cut. Guys like Justin Simmons, who's arguably I think a top 10 safety still. I mean, despite his age, it's not like he's deep in his 30s either. He's just only 30, can be 31 at the end of next season. Of course, Tre'Davious White was cut. He's only 29. Is coming off an ACL injury, but I mean, I feel like he's still talented enough to still have some good games, some good years left in him. Some other guys, there's been a lot of releases, some surprising cuts. Xavier Howard a couple of weeks ago. The free agent market for the secondary has just grown tremendously, I think. There's some really good options for the Houston Texans to potentially go out and get. Jordan Poyer, too. Yes, he's on the older side. Now, him, compared to Justin Simmons, Jordan Poyer, I think, is like 33, 34. So that probably wouldn't be an option for us, or at least it shouldn't be. But my two favorite targets for this, I guess, Texan secondary for me is Justin Simmons and Tre'Davious White. I feel like those two players, they could help transform this secondary probably into a top 10 unit, maybe even top 5. If both of them are at their best, or at least Tre'Davious White is somewhat close to his best. I don't think Tre'Davious White is ever going to get to what he used to be. I mean, he used to be a top 3 cornerback at one point, and a mixture of an ACL injury, a mixture of just not getting the proper treatment for some other injuries that he's had in Buffalo. I think that mixture probably isn't going to make him, I guess, as fully healthy as he ever was. But I feel like he could still maybe be 75% of what he used to be. And that's still better than Steven Nelson. I mean, to be your cornerback, too, you're not asking for another Derek Stingley. You're not asking to have another top 5 cornerback. You just want a guy who's going to go in there and give you not elite play. Yes, it would be great if you get elite play from your cornerback 2 spot, but a guy who can just go in there and make plays and do his job, similar to Steven Nelson. But I feel like Tre'Davious White could really make a more significant impact than Steven Nelson. Now, it's not a knock on Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson, I've said this in numerous videos and tweets. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Steven Nelson. Put his body on the line, played through injuries, and even when he was hurt, he still played fairly well. He had some game-winning interceptions, game-winning pass breakups. A very good player for us for the past couple years. Great find by Nick Caserio. But I feel like he could find better, especially at the age. Steven Nelson is what? I think he's like 29, 30, around the same age as Tre'Davious White. So if you have the choice between those two, Steven Nelson, yes, he would probably be slightly cheaper, I would think. Maybe you could get him on like a 2-year, $14 million deal or something like that compared to Tre'Davious White. I'm not sure how much you would want for sure, but I would think maybe 10 a year. I mean, yes, he is coming off of ACL, but we all know how talented he is and what he's done for the past few years outside of him being hurt. I mean, he has 18 career interceptions since 2017. Nothing crazy. I mean, the most interceptions he's had in a year is 6, and that was in 2019 with Buffalo. He's only had 1 in each of the last 3 years. But here's the main thing. I think he seems like he's more of a zone corner. He can play man, but in Buffalo, they ran a lot of zone. And guess what? That's something we do here in Houston. Is it the exact same scheme in terms of the cornerbacks, in terms of their jobs? We run a lot of cover 3 here, mixture of cover 3, cover 2 at times. I'm not sure exactly how Tre'Davious White would fit into that, but I feel like he would do a pretty good job. It's nothing crazy that he would have to learn. Nothing too extreme or too extremely different from what he's been doing in Buffalo. So I feel like he could slot right in here into the cornerback 2 spot, and I think he would do great. Bearing any injuries, bearing any knocks, I feel like he would give us a good quality maybe 2 years. I think he could probably play until he's like 31. We see Stephon Gilmore. He's still playing at an elite level. What is he? Almost 34, I think. 33, 34, something like that. And, I mean, you can't really compare the two because Stephon Gilmore, he hasn't really had as many major injuries as Tre'Davious White. But I feel like Tre'Davious White could somewhat play into like his 31, 32. So I'd feel comfortable giving him maybe like a 2-year, I don't want to say $10 million a year, but that's probably what I think he would command, or what he would ask for at least. I'm not sure if anybody would really pay him that, but I feel like he would ask for $10 million a year. Now, I would definitely try to bring that down a little bit, but we can afford it, and especially if it's for a quality cornerback too. But the biggest question is, how is he going to play after his ACL? after all of this stuff? That's the biggest question. He was having a little bit of a decline of play as well. I'm not going to say decline of play, but he wasn't exactly his old self before his ACL injury. So, I mean, that's yet to be seen how he's going to play. But I think I would definitely try to bring him in. He would be a dream scenario for me personally. Now, for me, I'm not the biggest fan of taking a cornerback in the first round. Me personally, I'm a defensive tackle or any defensive lineman at all in general, or a wide receiver guy. As far as cornerbacks, I mean, I wouldn't be the maddest person in the world. I would be okay. I'd be content with the cornerback, but that's just not my number one option. I feel like you could find a quality cornerback too in the draft. And I feel like you could do that for the next, not in the draft, in free agency. And I feel like you could do that for the next few years. I mean, you could find filler positions like a Steven Nelson. There's a bunch of Steven Nelsons out there almost every year. Maybe sometimes you won't get as good of a year from them, but I mean, you can find them. They're out there. So I'm not the biggest fan of finding one in the draft. So getting a Tre'Davious White, I feel like, saves you from that. I feel like you could either have the freedom to get any defensive lineman you want that's available there. Maybe a Johnny Newton, he's probably going to be there. A Byron Murphy, he's probably going to be gone, sadly. Maybe a Latu, a Chop Robinson. Or if you want to go wide receiver, I mean, of course, Brian Thomas Jr., A.D. Mitchell. Maybe you want to trade back a little bit, maybe get Worthy at the end of the first round or something like that. But I don't think cornerback is the biggest need, what fans make it seem like. When you look on Twitter and Instagram and all of the social media pages and whatnot, it feels like a lot of people want cornerback. And I mean, I'm okay with it, but you can definitely fill it out in free agency. And then especially with all of these guys being cut, all of these bigger names, yes, they do have a little bit of age on them, but so did Steven Nelson, and he gave us some quality time. But that's enough talking Tre'Davious White. Let's move on to my next favorite guy to help the secondary, and it's Justin Simmons. He was a very surprising release. Even Broncos reporters were very surprised to see Justin Simmons released. A lot of people were talking about his high character, everything he's done for the city, everything he's done for the community and whatnot. He's a better community guy than what he is player, a lot of people say. And I mean, obviously, it's not knocking his play. I mean, he's a very good player. It's just saying how good of a person he is. And I feel like that's the perfect thing you would want to bring to Houston. A guy who would come in here, rep the city, help the community out, and give you good play on the field. Now, as a safety, I feel like you can see more safeties playing deeper into the 30s now. Justin Simmons, he's going to be 31 in November. So maybe give him a two-year contract. You don't want another, I don't want to say repeat of Jimmy Ward, but we see Jimmy Ward, he's kind of an older safety, and we gave him a 2-year, I forgot exactly what the financials were, but it's like a 2-year something $1 million contract. And of course, we saw him kind of have I don't want to say a regression, but he did deal with some injuries, and I don't want to see similar situations with that. But Justin Simmons, he's arguably been a top 5 safety even for the past couple years. Just this past season, he had 70 combined tackles, only 1 sack, which, I mean, is okay. He wasn't really blitzing that much. And he had 3 picks. But the year before that, he had 6 interceptions. The year before that, he had 5 interceptions. The year before that, he had 5 interceptions. And, I mean, he's kind of I don't want to say an interception machine, but he's averaging around 4.5 interceptions a year, I think. He has 30 career interceptions since 2016. So, yeah, that's about 4.5 interceptions a year if you want to average it up. And I think that's something Houston can really, really need, especially with Jalen Petrie not really being the best of safeties, if you will. I mean, he struggled, different scheme, different system and all that. But maybe if you want to move him to the slot, you can maybe move Jalen Petrie to the slot and then have Justin Simmons out there at safety with Jimmy Ward. Or maybe if you want to draft a safety like in the 3rd, 4th round, something like that. But in my world, an ideal secondary for the Texans next year is Derek Stingley at cornerback 1, Tre'Davious White at cornerback 2, either Desmond King or Jalen Petrie in the slot. Maybe have a mixture of both of them. I would definitely re-sign Desmond King. I really, really liked what he did for us this past season. And then, of course, at the safety positions, Justin Simmons, and then Jimmy Ward. And then hopefully you have a rookie to interchange with Jimmy Ward. Because, I mean, if Jimmy Ward gets hurt, then we really don't have that much depth at the safety position. I mean, of course, Jalen Petrie, but he's not the best of options. Hopefully he can maybe get better to, I don't want to say to his rookie year, because even his rookie year, he was decent, but as in terms of a pure safety, I'm not sure it was the best option. But yeah, I feel like this secondary, it has the potential to be a top 5 secondary if everybody's healthy, everybody's playing at their elite levels. Of course, we know what Derek Stingley is. He's a great player, only 22 still. He's not going to turn 23 into the summer, so a 23-year-old Derek Stingley who's only getting better, who only locked up Amari Cooper in the playoffs when it mattered. Of course, Tre'Davious White, who hopefully can make a full recovery from his ACL injury. Hopefully none of his previous injuries really come back to bite him. So a very, very good quality cornerback too. In the slot, I feel like you have more than enough. I don't want to say more than capable enough because, I mean, obviously you want to get the best that you can. But I feel like Desmond King, he's a very, very underrated slot. And then, of course, I think you still have, what is his name? Tavir Thomas. I think you still have him under contract. Or he might be a free agent, actually. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we just gave him a 1-year deal last year or if it was a 2-year. I think we signed him to a multi-year extension. I may be wrong on that, but I think you still may have Tavir Thomas who could still play on the slot. And then, of course, maybe Jalen Petrie if you want to move him down into the slot. At Baylor, he did a very good job at playing the slot, so maybe you can move Jalen Petrie down there. And, of course, in the safety position, Justin Simmons, top 10 safety, Jimmy Ward. I feel like he's a pretty good safety when he wants to be. But, yeah, let me know what y'all guys think. Would y'all be in favor of that secondary? How do y'all like it? Me, personally, I think that's a top 10 for sure. Arguably a top 5 unit when all healthy and playing at their top levels. But yeah, it's been Clutch Entertainment, and hope you guys have a good day. Peace.